Gary doesn't know I'm about to ask you these questions, do you, Gary?
I do not.
No, I
No,
do.
but I'm excited because I'm never. I got to be honest with you. I prefer improv and surprises, so
I
I'm ready
thought,
to go.
yeah, I could kind of tell you were that kind of guy. I could kind of tell. I'm actually just going to turn on my video camera here, in fact, very quickly while I do this. And Gary, I don't know if you've got a camera at your end. Feel free to turn that on if you so desire.
I love it.
If you
Let me
have one, that'd be
see.
tremendous so we could see you. It's always, of course, more engaging to actually see who we're speaking to. There we go. Hey, how is
Hey,
Manhattan
mate.
this afternoon?
It's really well.
Good, good, good. So, without further ado, 60-second quiz, no right and wrong. Tell us two of the films that would be in your top 10 list of favourite films ever.
Ironically, this is insane, Chris, because I caught this as your pre-slide. My favorite all-time film is Empire Strikes Back. It's crazy that you brought that up.
I just knew
Um,
we were going to get on.
Besides that, I'm not really a good film guy. I actually tend to like most films. I guess the other film, the two films that most impact me, top of mind, were Empire Strikes Back because I just moved to America, and it was like the first time I felt like an American when that movie came out. I was 5.
Wow.
I knew what the other kids were talking about. I'm like, yeah, Darth Vader. Like it
Sure.
meant to me like I was in the loop, right? So that was that. And then the other thing was Forrest Gump.
Of course.
Forrest Gump came out in 1994, pre-internet for me. I didn't even know what I'm going to see. I went with 20 of my high school friends. We were about to graduate, or we just graduated from high school, and I was just blown away. And there was something different back then. You didn't know what you were walking into, right? Back then, you didn't have the internet. You didn't know everything about the movie before you got there. And so the surprise of what the story was, Forrest Gump stands out.
Yeah, that was. Can you believe that's over 20 years old as well? And everything about that, the
Sad.
music and the
Makes me
story.
old.
Okay, so we just wanted to very quickly paint a picture of, Gary Vaynerchuk, Empire Strikes Back, Forrest Gump. Are you a dog man or a cat man?
Neither. I don't like pets.
Okay. Introvert or extrovert, would you say?
Ma-
Next question.
massive, massive extrovert.
Downton Abbey or Breaking Bad? If
Haven't watched a second of either show yet.
Okay, yet being a
Notice?
key word
Yes.
there. Yet
That
being the
and
key
that's where
word.
and that's where TV's really changed.
Isn't it? Hasn't it though? We can now kind of binge view, but wipe off 3 days from our business, unfortunately, as a result.
That's true.
Uh, Two more quick questions. One of the nicest celebrities that springs to mind that you've met.
I'm sorry, it chopped for a second.
One of the nicest celebrities that you've either met or worked with that just springs to mind.
Hands down, Ashton Kutcher. Hands down.
And of course, he wrote a very nice testimony about you on the back of your book.
Just as smart as it comes to startup entrepreneurship as anybody who's doing it full time. And then when you take into account that he has to spend his time as being a celebrity and doing the show and what he does, it's very impressive to me and a great guy.
And I thought it was great in Jobs as well. I know some people slated the movie, but
The movie,
he thought it
listen,
was good.
and I told him, and he's become a friend. The movie was okay. He killed it.
Oh, unbelievable, unbelievable. And kids? No kids? What's your kind of your personally? Yeah, have you got kids?
I have two,
Okay,
Misha and Xander. Misha's 4.5. Xander's 18 months. Uh, Girl, boy.
beautiful name.
Um, Thank you. Misha and Xander are my life, Chris.
Wow,
Are
of
my
course.
absolute life.
Now, the only reason I wanted to kind of throw out this right hook, if you like, for the the first 120 seconds, let's say, was because they may seem like random questions I'm just throwing out there, but essentially what we're really doing is the nucleus of pretty much everything that you talk about in online and in your business. It's what I've learned a huge amount from you, and that's really engage with your audience through stories. And really,
That's right.
jab, 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 right hook, your current book, that's really, I guess, the central message. For those that may be unfamiliar with jab, 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 right hook, your current book, could you kind of sum up the central
Yeah.
message to that, please?
Yeah. So for everybody who's watching slash listening, m- the hundreds and hundreds and thousands of you that are on this, and I see the numbers. Um, a lot of you are trying to sell something. Now, by the way, when I say sell something, yes, that can be informational product. Yes, that can be wine. Yes, that can be raising money for a charity. Yes, that can be parenting your kids. You're selling, right? You're selling.
Sure.
To me, why I've been successful in my career is I'm always selling where people actually are, not where they used to be or not where I wish they were. And that's very important. And so what I did in Jab, 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 Right Hook is I wrote a book about the social networks, the 8 or 9 social networks right now that are actually platforms that a lot of us are spending our time on. A lot of us, I mean, our eyes and our ears and most of all our attention has shifted dramatically. Look, there are an ungodly amount of people right now watching this, Chris. 30 years ago, this technology did not exist.
And it blows
Those
my
people,
mind.
those people were reading a book on their porch. They were watching television. They were at the movies. They were consuming content in a different way if that's what they were doing. So what I'm focused on is Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Vine, Google+, these platforms that every day more and more people are spending time on. And what I see is the hundreds of people watching right now, thousands of people watching right now, you, me, the far majority, most people are struggling to figure out how to make it work as a business. See, Web 1.0 was easy. Search and email marketing was easy. It was direct conversion. Social's hard, and it takes patience, thus the title. Give, and ask, or jab, 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 right hook. And so to me, I went through the book of a philosophy of giving, and then asking in return, not expecting, Chris, not expecting in return, asking, hoping for a conversion, predicated on how good you gave, right? And number 2, I broke down the platforms one by one and explained the nuances of each platform and how to actually storytell in them. And I gave 80 case studies to help people figure out how to do it.
So what you're saying here is that the jab, jab, jab of the title is essentially give, and then the right hook is, and then ask for something back in return. Is that really what you're saying is the central message of successful marketing?
I think so. I mean, listen, I don't know much about every detail of your world, Chris, but here's what I know. You have created a platform where my time is very valuable. I get paid lots of money and don't do a lot of stuff. And you've been able to bring me to your audience right now. And, you're bringing value and it's setting us all up. We're all doing it. It's the reason I'm here. There are hundreds of people right now that have not heard of me. Chris, it's amazing. Even with my 1 million followers and 150 TV appearances and all that, you know how it is.
Sure.
People still don't know. I mean,
yeah.
It's incredible to, back to Ashton. My favorite story to tell anybody is when me and Ashton went out to dinner and the waitress was more excited that I was there because she grew up watching Wine Library TV. And I looked at her, I was like, I thought she was joking. She didn't know who Ashton was. She didn't know who Ashton was. I was like, what are you talking about?
That's hilarious.
That's kind of how it works, right? And so I know that to be true. And thus I want to be here for the next 40 minutes and bring as much value to this audience as possible. All I'm going to do is jab. I'm going to answer your questions. I'm not here to sell my book.
I know.
That will happen later.
Sure.
If I do a good job and I answer questions and I make them think, and you know me well enough to know I do think I see the world a lot differently than the majority of people that look like me on paper. I'm a different kind of marketer. I come from a much more of a marathon, long-term, legacy, lifetime value, percentage of wallet spend mentality. I am dramatically more patient than the far majority of marketers and salespeople and business people in the space right now. And that's what makes it work for me. And that's how I feel comfortable. Now, that might be predicated because I already built some big businesses. I probably, in theory, would have been a little bit less patient if I hadn't done well before. But I was patient from the beginning, even building the wine business. It's my natural state. It's my DNA. I feel uncomfortable taking before I give. And I think that's something people need to think about.
You see, what I like about you is you back it up with actions. That talk is cheap. It's very easy, particularly let's say using Facebook. It's very easy to say the right thing, and a person's true character is determined by what they do, not what they say. So here's a perfect example. What I mean by that is 45 minutes. There's nothing to sell, as we've said. I've even said this in the invitation. We're going to hopefully just entertain and give some value, and that's kind of the whole gist of it. You also hit on something.
Give. I'm just going to say it right here for everybody to really understand. I think everybody who's watching has been in that place where, especially when an author comes on, like I am right now with an active book, it's a whole sales pitch the whole time. And listen, guys, by the way, if I thought, let me say this because I want everybody to know who I am. If I thought that would work, I would do it.
That's the ironic thing. If you actually kind of do marketing this way, if you do give, actually making the sale is actually ironically not that difficult. If you treat your lists well, when the time comes to it, your list will be good to you back. It is not
Chris, there's
reinvent.
a big reason that my book 3 months later is still in the top 500 books overall on Amazon, where a lot of other people that give advice about how to sell books and market, they get on number one on that first day because they blast everybody, right? And then you look at their books a month later and they're 3,000, 10,000, 40,000, 100,000, right? We've all seen these characters come and go. For me, I want to be around 15 years from now. I want today to be the first day of hundreds of people becoming aware of me for the rest of their lives. I want them to engage with me. I want to bring value. My sales will come. It's so easy. It's so clear to me, Chris.
I want to go back to the thank you economy for a moment because that book
Please.
really resonated with me. And there was something, I'm going to paraphrase this very badly, I'm sure, but there's something that you said in that book, and you said something along the lines of, you were talking about how people decide if they, well, you're talking about business, of course, but you said, you broke it down, you said, how do people decide if they like each other, they listen, they talk, they communicate, and a relationship develops. It's exactly same way online that we should communicate with our customers or future customers. But you said that the key here is really if you're brave enough to expose a little bit of heart and soul. I do remember that sentence, and I had to put the book down. I thought, do you know what? If you're brave enough to expose a little bit of heart and soul. And so my question to you, Gary, is how about people that are in business that feel like, do you know, I don't really know what I have to say. You know, I don't really feel, I'm interested in business, but I don't really feel I have, something to say. What would you say to those people?
Then you're going to lose. I mean, and it's a pretty, I hear this all the time. They're like, Gary, I don't know what I can add. I don't know what to put out. And I'm like, well, then you're probably not going to win. I think where people are very confused is this notion. I want everybody to kind of wrap their head about what I'm going to say. If you do not bring value, you lose. Now, you can bring value in a lot of ways. I watch a lot of people who are bringing value as curators and access givers. I mean, Chris, that's what you're doing here. You're curating good content. I've been lucky. I have original thoughts. That's happened for a long time in my career. I'm a fast mover. Vine comes out and I'm using it for a week from 11 p.m. to 3 in the morning, not for my health, but because when people ask about Vine, I want to be an expert in my craft. I don't have a lot to add to economics conversations, or I don't have a lot to add in farming conversations, and I don't have a lot to add in 99.9% of the genres, and that's why I don't make money on them. Like at the end of the day, you have to add something. Now, by the way, adding hope, adding curation, adding humor. There's a lot of things that can be added, but if you do not understand what you can say or what you can bring to the table, well, then that's where the problem starts. That's not the issue. That's not the current issue. That's the global issue. I mean, Chris, I'm going to tell you something right now, and maybe I'm ranting a little bit here. I'm really pissed off with how many people are marketing experts, have big podcasts, all this stuff, that have never sold shit in their life, that have never run a business in their life, that have only, it matters to me.
Of course.
And so I think you have to have chops. Now, if you're a great host, if you're a great curator of information, the world's fast now. So if you're good at going around the web, finding the right things and the right information, repackaging and selling it, you're a distributor. I respect that. But you have to bring value. And by the way, talking on social networks just might not be what you bring value in. It's not for everybody. I think in quick terms, which is why Twitter, short, quick bursts. That's why Twitter worked for me. I am an extrovert and a ham, and that's why I like the camera, right? And so I'm just mapping to my strengths. So I implore, Chris, every one of your friends that are listening around, please with all your heart, be honest with yourself. Be self-aware. Figure out what you're good at. Don't try to copy the Chris blueprint. Don't try to copy my blueprint. I'm very unique. I get scared when people try to be like me. There's a lot of other people to be better. There's a lot of other people that people should be emulating than me, because I'm extreme. I'm an extreme workaholic. I'm extremely interested in getting my hands dirty, engaging at scale, hustling when it doesn't seem like there's value in it, because I'm playing a 50-year game. That's not for everybody.
Let's talk about, you briefly alluded to video a moment ago, and let's talk about video, because one thing that I've enjoyed very much about your video presentation style is the fact that to coin the phrase, you are the guy that is ready, fire, aim. You're out there, let's just do it. I think a lot of us, I certainly had this when I started, had that red light syndrome. The red light goes on, you say something, then a dog barks or a plane goes overhead, or you don't even like how you said the inflection on the words, you do the video again. I saw a video of you once when I started online in 2008 of you walking down a street in New York, tons of people, and people were looking at you as you walk past, like, who's this loony just talking? And you didn't miss a beat. And that kind of was like, wow, you gave me, and I guess a lot of other people, permission just to do it. So for those that are watching this webinar right now, that, they kind of got this passion, but there's still kind of that hesitancy to actually push, kind of go. What would you say to those people?
That I think there's a lot less risk to try something once than people think. Like, go back and watch episode 1 of Wine Library TV. I was reserved. I was scared to lose my customers because I didn't want them to know how loony I really was. At the end, I say things like, we're probably going to make a lot of mistakes. I don't know how this is going to work out. Hopefully I'll be back tomorrow. And it became the, start of me being on online video every day of my life almost since then. I will say this, Chris. I think the way you framed that question, here's what I would say. If I can make anything happen during our time together on this weekend, it's going to be this moment. I'm going to say something, the biggest profound thing that I think I say publicly, and it's how I live my life. And I don't actually talk about this too often, Chris, so I think you've done a good job to get me in the zone.
Well, thank you for being prepared to share.
I'm far more worried about the last 10 years of your life than the next 10.
Say that again. You're far more worried.
Yes. About the last 10 years of everybody's lives here than I am about the next 10 years.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that regret is the scariest thing a human being can deal with. And so the reason I'm always willing to take chances and do things is I'm an old soul, Chris. Something weird happened to me. I am an old soul, a true one. Like when I fly on planes, I gravitate towards sitting with 80, 90-year-olds. I always did this. My mom even tells me as like a 5-year-old, I'd go to the park and literally go sit down with the oldest of old people. It was just weird. And I would just talk to them. And I've always been that way. I think I'm an old man from day one. And so what that does is I've had a lot of conversations in the last decade with 70, 80, 90 years old individuals. And something keeps coming up, Chris. It's them wishing. The amount of times the word wish comes up when you talk with somebody who's 70, 80, 90 versus not is flabbergasting.
As in wish they had done something that they hadn't done?
That's right. Nobody says, I regret doing. Nobody says it. Nobody says it. Nobody, when I sit down, and I'm good, I'm a schmoozer, I'm a psychologist, right?
Sure.
When I sit down and they start telling me their life, I never hear somebody say, I wish I didn't, do blank. They do. They're always like, I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish your kid. They go,
I wish I traveled more. I wish I'd taken that risk.
Job.
Yeah.
That risk. I wish I asked that girl out. I wish I did videotape that one time when I had a hunch that I could have been I wish I wish I did start a Facebook account 3 years earlier because I would have been big. It's these things that I keep thinking about that people are sitting with right now. Like I wish I did email that person and ask them, guys, here's a good one for everybody who's watching. Think of 3 people that you desperately want to connect with. Literally go find their email because you can. Email them right after this video, right now. Email them and say, hey, Tim Ferriss, I want to have lunch with you. By the way, 99.99999% of the time, you will not get it. But that 0.1, it's game-changing. It can be. So whether it's Mark Human or whether it's Chris, sorry, Chris, I just sent you a bunch of email, or if it's, whoever it might be, listen, I get 100 of these a day, and I say no all the time because I don't have the time.
Of course.
But once in a goddamn blue moon, I say, come to Vayner for 5 minutes. And I did that once last year, and it turned into, Chris, is there a way to share a URL with anybody here?
Yes, we could. I'm going to ask if you can type it in the, you can either tell me or you can type it in the chat window on the right-hand side. I don't know if you can see that, Gary.
In chat? Yep. So I'm just going to put this up. Story.co. It created this company, Grape Story.
Grape Story dot was that .com or .co?
No, .co.
.co.
It's just so interesting to me. I took this meeting, and now I have a multi-million-dollar agency that represents the top celebrities on Vine.
And this was as the result of an off-the-chance email saying, "Can I, hang out for?"
Scarier than that. It's off the chance of a kid who raised his hand at a Toronto keynote
Wow.
and said, "Can I get 30 minutes of coffee with you in New York?" And I said, "No." On stage in front of thousands of people. He said, "What if I beat you in rock, paper, scissors?"
I love the kid.
I go, "What?"
Yeah.
He goes, "What if I beat you in rock, paper, scissors?" I said, "Okay." He gets on stage, and Chris, you know me a little bit. If I beat him, I would never see him. I would never in the world see him. But he beat me, and we had this drinks, and it led to a multi-million-dollar company. So, in 6 months. So, you just never know.
Insane.
And by the way, what makes Mark Cuban, what makes Seth Godin, what makes these people what they, and then all the Zucks and the Ev Williamses and all the tech people in Silicon Valley that I care about, what makes these people is them taking those random meetings. I guess what it comes down to for me, Chris, is you've got to take your at bat. You got to swing. You just have to. That's what I want everybody to know. That you get one at bat.
And it's funny to look back to what you're talking about, regrets. There's an amazing book that you probably read called "The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying." Very depressing title, but it's about.
By the way, I want to expose myself. You kind of jumped in and said, "I'm sure you read." I've only read like 6 books in my life, so
Okay.
I'm a bad boy when it comes to that.
Well, essentially, it's about a woman who is a professional carer, and she looks after people in their 80s and their 90s, and she just says what you said. There's a common theme, and I think my biggest fear, it sounds like yours is the same, is I don't want to be that guy that's 80 and just thinks, oh, if only. I don't even mind if I try something that didn't work. I just don't want to say I didn't even.
Well, let me
try.
really throw you for a loop. I'm going to say this. This is something, again, I'm in the zone today. Some of these things I haven't really talked about a lot, maybe here and there. You're just asking the right kind of questions, the tone of the interview, I guess. Good on you. I literally love losing.
Let's just frame that so everybody heard that correctly. You literally love losing.
When it comes to business and sports, that's why I love the Jets so much. I love the process of the climb far more than the spoils of victory. I have liked the last 2 years of building VaynerMedia, my new agency, being the low man on the totem pole in the agency world, much more than the last 5 years of being the big man in the wine world. I like that nobody knew who I was in the agency world. I like that there's multi-billion-dollar Sir Martin Sorrell, WPP, Omnicom, billion-dollar public companies in the game. I like that everybody, when I first announced it, was like, oh, you think because you have a lot of Twitter followers, you could build an agency? I loved being underestimated. I loved losing clients because I didn't know what I was doing at first. I loved it. A true entrepreneur, a real business builder, loves losses on the table. I need those check marks on the table. They drive me. They're my oxygen. I prefer to take a step back. I like losing money. It's good. It brings humility. It reminds you you're playing the game. It's the right thing to do. Like if you're bad and you're not good enough, you deserve to lose. It feels fair, and it inspires me to be better every day.
So let me, if I may, pick you up on that. You just talked about really enjoying the climb. I love that. A great kind of image, very strong, striking visual. But how much of that is, do you think, in your DNA and your parenting, and how much of that is just the fact that you just want to be a successful business guy? Do you think it's inherent in you as a kid? Emigrating from
yes,
from the last.
I think this has been mapped, right? Like even though I've never read it, this nature nurture thing, it's been mapped, right? And I think the DNA versus parenting environment thing has been long figured out, and I agree with it. Which is, I'm a product of all my realities. Yes, a ton of it was naturally in me, but I'm sure this insane hunger, this underdog mentality, even when I'm winning, or what's even scarier, Chris? I'm now psychoanalyzing myself lately. I'm like, did I leave the wine business because I was at the top and I needed to be the underdog? I didn't like being up there, right? I
Sure.
think the answer is yes, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I have, I liked being, I loved high school, being not popular freshman year and then being really popular senior year. I loved that climb. I like that. I like that kind of stuff. It's how I'm wired. I think it has a lot to do with being an immigrant, coming to America with no money, you know, not speaking the language, kids making fun of me for not speaking the language, kids making me drink piss out of a Pepsi can, like being a little guy. Yeah, I love that stuff. I live for it. I live for it.
Can I ask, are
But,
your
but I apologize. My parents, hard work was in our blood. Like we came here with nothing. I watched my dad work every hour of his life. It felt normal. Hard work was instilled. My mom did an incredible. My mom's such an amazingly warm human being. So, it's really interesting. My mom and dad and the environment. I think of myself as a contradiction, Chris. I am fiercely competitive and have a humongous ego. I want to win. I want to win. I know I'm good. I got it, right? At the same token, and I think, it's fun for me to have a relationship with you because it's a new one and it's a lightweight one. We don't know each other super well, but I think you can tell from like LA and from right now and from probably what you've heard of friends that we're both close to. I'm also a good dude. Like I want to build the biggest, here it is. Here's the saying I love more than anything in the world. Ready? I want to build the biggest building in town. I want to build the biggest building in town. However, I only just want to build the biggest building in town. I don't want to build the biggest building in town by building a nice building and then tearing all the other buildings down. And that's how a lot of people
there's
want to
two
build the
ways
biggest
of
building.
achieving it, yeah.
And I want you to build the biggest building. And I want Lewis Howes to build the biggest building. And I want Tim and Godin. And then I want Cuban. And then I want all the Silicon Valley friends I have. And the VCs, Fred Wilson, Andreessen, Conway, Lair Fund. I want them to all build the biggest buildings. I want them all to be super happy and healthy and family and rich and fun and success. I just want more. I just want to be better. Not because I want anything, because I don't even want stuff. I don't have a watch. I don't have a fancy car. I don't need anything. I love the game, Chris. I love the game. I want to be the winner. That's what it is.
Let me ask you, if I may, are your parents still alive?
Yeah, my parents are very young. My dad's
Okay.
60
Okay.
and my mom's 58. So very much alive. Now that I've been removed a little bit from the wine business, my dad's even more involved in the wine business again, so more active. They're going into a great chapter in their lives. They've worked their face off to bring their
Wow.
family to America. And now hopefully, I'd like to see them spend a little more time and enjoy it a little bit.
Do you think they understand what, because you've got a brother as well, AJ, but do you think they understand what you're doing? Do you think they get, what Gary has
I
done?
don't think I don't think technically, like the details, I don't think most people watching this know what I've done, right? From a detailed standpoint. From a holistic standpoint, like the achievements, they knew this was going to happen before I did. My mom called me a star since I was 8 years old. She knew.
So I'm very aware of everyone's time, and we're at 30 minutes in, so we've got another 15, and I want to, as I said, let you get back to your day as well. There's nothing worse, is there, than somebody jumps on a webinar, says it's 45 minutes, it's an hour and a half, so we're not going to do any of that. Let's just loop back to jab, 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 right hook again. Everything comes down to storytelling, but how can you, without wanting to sound crass almost, how can you actually make money with that knowledge?
Well, listen, crass. What are you talking about, Chris? I mean, I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is everybody likes me because I sound like Mother Teresa 90% of the time, but I'm the biggest salesman in the block, right? I'm trying to sell stuff. I don't think it's crass. I think it's awesome. I love entrepreneurship. I love selling. To me, it comes out of bringing value. Okay, for all the people that are here that are B2B people, here's the number one thing you should do. You should go to LinkedIn. You should find the name of the person that you're trying to sell to. Most of you should know that if you're B2B because you know who the buyer is of whatever you sell. You may know the title. It might be the events manager. You find them all. You then find their name. Then you take their name, Gary Vaynerchuk, and you post it into Google. Gary Vaynerchuk, and then space Twitter, right? You say Twitter, right? So you do that. And then what you do is you find them on Twitter. 25% of the people that you're looking to sell to will have a Twitter account. And then you follow them. And then you wait for them to talk. So if you're trying to sell me,
Wow.
You don't hit me up cold. You just watch what I say.
Sure.
And I'm going to say something tomorrow about the Jets. And then you jump in.
Totally.
And then you say, hey, Gary,
You
I'm a
respond.
Bills fan.
Yeah.
That's right. And now you and I made a first connection on something I'm passionate about instead of you trying to pitch me on something.
How often,
I
out
do
of
this all the
interest,
time.
do you see that happen to you? Is that certainly the minority, or are people getting a bit more savvy and actually, engaging
Nobody's ever done,
first?
nobody's doing that with me. I, on the other
Really?
hand, really, I, on the other hand, am doing it heavily and have landed multi-million-dollar accounts that way. I've consulted some friends to do it this way. They're killing it. And I, out of the passion to bring value to this audience, hope that 6 people here, because listen, I'm very realistic. Most people don't want to put in the work. They want to watch webinars, read books, complain about it not happening. They don't want to put in the work. I know that 6 people, I hope that 6 people here take my advice on this after this seminar, whether it's Monday morning because they want to enjoy family time, but right now, start realizing who are they really selling to. Go to LinkedIn, put together 100, 500 people's names, go to Google, add the word Twitter, then find 74 of them on Twitter, follow every one of them, and then over the next couple of weeks, engage with them around things that that person cares about outside of the business, which inevitably is going to lead to, whether it's a month from now or 2 months from now, your opening to jump in. If I tweeted right now, who knows somebody who provides internet access? When I get replies on Twitter, I'm going to reply to the person that I've seen before.
Yeah, of course.
So that was me, Chris, right there, trying to spend 3 minutes giving actionable, tangible advice. That's what I call a jab. That works. That's value. It costs you nothing. And now it has set me up in the future. Somebody here is like, oh, that's a good idea. Wait, Chris, till somebody here in 2 weeks lands a $50,000 account or $1 million deal because of that move. Then they're going to follow me with more earnings, right? They're going to love me. I just gave them something. Now, in a year, when I come back out with my 4th book, they're going to be like, oh, I have to buy like 50 of these. The guy fucking made me $1 million.
Why do you think it is that the whole hard work thing is? We could say this has been like it since the dawn of time, but I'm definitely seeing, maybe it's because the internet has the perception, therefore it's quick and it's easy, but there's definitely a sense of entitlement these days. I just see the internet as a tool that allows us to do things, faster, but it's still a learning curve. It still took me an awful long time before I made any money online. Why do you think it is that that many don't really want to put in any hard work at all?
Um,
Do you think it's
because
just
they
human
naturally,
nature? Just
yeah. It's not super complicated, right? I think that they, I think that, I think about this all the time. I just think it doesn't come natural to them. It's the same reason, Chris, that I want to work out every day and have muscles and a chest for the first time in my life and be healthy and better cardio and live longer. And I'm not doing it well. I'm fighting. I'm trying.
yeah.
Certain things don't come naturally, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't work for them. What didn't come natural to me was, what came natural to me was being full of shit. But over the last 20 years, I converted myself into being zero full of shit. What didn't come natural to me was being organized. But in the last 7 years, through an assistant and Google Calendar and other things, I've become organized. You have to fight, otherwise you don't get the results.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Gary. I'm going to ask Greg, who's our moderator, Greg Ray, who's fielding questions behind the scenes here, to quickly jump on, because I did promise that we had some questions that some would like to ask you, and we've got about 7 minutes left. So, Mr. Ray, Greg Ray, firstly, can you hear me, young Mr. Ray?
I can hear you, Mr. Farrell. Hello, Gary. How's your day?
I'm doing
Don't we have
great.
a
How are
great group
you?
here?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
good.
awesome.
We
Greg,
had to
so
have a
thank you for
number of
fielding all these
questions.
questions. Yeah, so is there kind of an overriding theme to some questions that we can throw at Gary?
There's a few here, and now that you've said questions, tons are rolling in, so I'll
Of
try to
course.
adjust. But the first one was, Gary, you spoke in 2011 about concentrating on context and not so much on content. Do you still believe the same in 2014?
I do. I think context. Listen, they both matter. The problem is that everybody focuses on content. Everybody talks about content. Nobody's talking about context. The context matters, right? Like, look what's going on with this video, right? Like, we were not on video at first. It was going to be audio. I've never done video with GoToMeeting before. Chris, thanks for showing me this feature. I didn't even know it freaking existed. And it changed it. Now a lot of people have seen my face, so I've actually been able to say different things Different things. Think about what I'm about to tell you. I've said different things because I knew my face could do the work
Wow,
instead
yeah,
of my words. I mean,
sure.
context, guys.
Very
Great
good.
question, Greg.
Well said. If I were a newbie in the social network marketing adventure, tell me the best platforms to learn or master. You mentioned a couple, LinkedIn and Twitter there. Any other suggestions?
It's completely predicated, Greg, on what they're selling, right? So if you're selling something to 12 to 18-year-old children, you need to be on Snapchat, you need to be on Vine, you need to be on Instagram. If you're selling to 60 to 80-year-old females, you need to be on Pinterest, you need to be on Facebook. So with Jab, Jab, Right Hook, I went after all the ones that I think are relevant, but it's completely predicated on your target audience.
Actually, on that note,
Very
let me
good.
ask you, with Facebook in mind, have you found that if you're a personality, you obviously have a fan page, but have you found that your personal profile, now that we can have followers, is essentially the same as a fan page? And would you therefore recommend that you maybe don't need both, or not?
No, I think I think that actually isn't working really well. You know, the personal pages where people can follow. I don't think it's working super well with EdgeRank. I think you're far better off with an actual page. You're
Okay.
getting much more exposure. I get way more engagement on my page than I do with my personal page that has followers. I'm not even sure my personal page with followers is working. Like
Okay.
it's just, you know,
Yeah.
uh, I don't know if you've tested both or you've seen it, but it doesn't look like anybody's personal pages are doing well. It's almost like it's functionally not working.
So we have 4 minutes left. So Greg, maybe you could pick maybe a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up if that's working for everybody.
Absolutely. So you've talked a little bit in this about you've got to get after it. You've got to hustle. So we've had a couple of people ask about how do we navigate that fine line between hustling and being pushy or overbearing with people?
Nice question.
Um, that takes a very interesting skill. That takes tact. That's like, in guys and girls, um, dynamics, that's called charming or smooth, right? That's just skill. That's tact. That's years of practice. That's EQ. That's intuition. That's empathy. That's self-awareness. That's the stuff, Greg, that I think is becoming more and more important in the world. And so, you know, the answer is different to everyone. Sometimes I look to close immediately because it feels right. Sometimes I slow roll it for 4 years and everything else in between. So I think that's a skill. That's like saying, how do I get better at singing? Well, you can take singing lessons, but talent has to be part of the equation. Some people just don't have it. I mean, we all know people that are just lost, right? Like, you just
Mm.
watch the way they move around and you're like, oh my God, like, is that how you try to sell? Or is that how you try to ask for the date or go in for the kiss? Or, I mean, it's all that stuff, right? So I don't know if that's teachable, but what I will say is this. If I have one tangible answer to it, do what you want. They're old sayings. Act like you would want to be acted upon, right? Like the reason I think I'm a good salesperson is I'm a good customer. I know like what I feel when I get approached, and so that's what I look for.
Absolutely. Very, very good. So I think the last and perhaps the most important question that anybody has asked here, Gary, is they say they're being a little bit cheeky, but I think it's a good question. What would you recommend as a good Spanish red?
Yeah, I love it. Um,
I'm surprised we've only
I
had one question about wine so far.
um, I'm very hot on the wines from Toro, Toro. Very big, ripe fruit, underpriced in my opinion. So Toro wines is where I want everybody to check out. Toro. I also want to say, Chris, Greg, for anybody who's listening that's on Twitter, I want you to say hello because I got a few minutes here as I'm going to walk down the street for 15 minutes with my phone so I can say hi.
Oh, great.
So Gary VEE. Um, maybe use a hashtag Chris is the best. Look for that.
Well, Greg,
I'll
thank
turn
you.
it back to you, Chris.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for
Thanks,
monitoring
Greg.
behind the scenes. I appreciate your time,
Thanks,
Greg,
Gary.
very much.
Thanks,
So
Chris.
we are kind of almost at our time, and I remember in Delivering Happiness, Tony Hsieh, the guy behind Zappos, for those that may be unaware who he is, $1 billion brand. talked about delivering wow through service. And I think Gary Vaynerchuk is actually just a guy that kind of encompasses that. I've seen you speak a few times. We met briefly at a few different times, and I just want to say, Gary, you really, as I said earlier, it's easy to talk the talk these days. It's very easy to say on your Facebook wall, "Oh, I crushed it, getting all these great testimonials." So boring, so dull when people say that. As we said, a person's true character is defined by what they actually do, and you certainly are doing exactly as you spoke about. Look at this, hasn't even mentioned, your book for sale. Obviously, if you haven't bought it, we'd like to encourage that. Just go to Amazon, it's the best place. Jab, 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 right hook. I have my copy right here. There you go. So Gary, with all that said, we're at 45 minutes past, and I just want to appreciate, it's Saturday afternoon, you got your 2 kids, you're at home in Manhattan, and you gave up your time. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it. Super impressed by your audience that came out. And so I wish you nothing but the best. And all of you guys who've been watching, think about a couple of big things. That at bat. This is our chance, guys. We got so lucky. Our parents and grandparents didn't have the internet. We had to stay in our local towns. We had to live our practical lives. Our dreams were contained to our dreams. We need to execute. We need to take advantage. But we have to bring value to the people that we're trying to sell. Please. You're not entitled to that dollar. You need to fight for it.
Gosh, I feel inspired.
Cool.
Gary V.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Great spending time with you.
Stay well.
Thanks so much. All the best.
Hit me up on Twitter, guys. Gary VEE. I want to say hi to some of you. Take care. Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you,
Bye-bye.
Gary. Thank you. So Gary's going to disappear, and all that remains for me to say is thank you very much for giving up your time today. Hope you've enjoyed this this kind of peek behind the genius. Really, it's not luck that allows you to come to a country. We didn't really dwell on this that much, but he came from Belarus in Russia, not speaking English, came over here as a kid with his brother and his parents, learnt the language, hustled, started working in his dad's liquor store, eventually took that business online, turned that into a $60 million business, and is now doing the same for his digital consulting company called Vaynermedia. Off the back of that, has picked up a lot of celebrity and well-known clients, and is teaching them essentially to do what we've spoken about over the last 45 minutes, how to engage our story, how to harness the power of social media to tell our story and to grow our brand. So thank you for your time. It's been super nice spending it with you. I'm just going to quickly look at the questions here. And if we have no more business, I think that is it. As I say, there's nothing to sell in this webinar. If, of course, you want to buy Gary's book, we're not trying to make you buy it, but if you're interested, Amazon.com, jab, 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 right hook. I don't even know the price, actually. $15, I think. This has been recorded, so I will be sending out the recording of this. And again, I want to be very respectful of your time, so I'm going to wrap it up now. 46 minutes past. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Gregory, for moderating. My name is Chris Farrell. This is Farrell signing out for now. Speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.